Hey guys, I'm the Madcatster, and I'm glad to see you here. This is a little bit of a different video than the ones I usually make. I want to talk to you guys about something that happened to me in the middle of the night last night. And incidentally, I know I look like crap, and it's because I only slept about 2 or 3 hours last night. I might get a little emotional, but I want to just preface this by saying the incident that happened during the night is not what's got me upset. It's something peripheral to it, and I'll explain in a minute. And this little girl here, she's a heroine. And I'll tell you why. For those of you, and there's only a very small number, just to be clear, who call me a boomer or an old man, this old man wants to impart some important wisdom to you that might help you avoid some of the errors I've made when I was younger. And in particular, if you're under 40, this will be really relevant. So anyways, let me first start by telling you what happened last night. So I had fallen asleep in bed watching TV, and Sybil sleeps with me every night. About 3 o'clock in the morning, she woke me up, and she has this like really pathetic little voice she uses when she's like hungry or whatever, or something's wrong. So I figured, well, she's probably hungry because, her mouth has been bothering her. And even though the medication is working, she eats like smaller meals. And whenever she is hungry, I will feed her. I will chop up some turkey or whatever. And I hide her medicine in it. But so I thought she's probably hungry because she probably didn't eat enough at supper. So I got up out of bed with her and she followed me to the bathroom. And when I got into the bathroom, I could hear water running. And I thought, that's really weird. I'm not like running the dishwasher or the washing machine or anything. So I went downstairs and I could hear it still. And I went into the basement and the pipe going into the top of my hot water heater had become disconnected because of corrosion around the top. And water was spraying everywhere. Now, thank God for this little girl, because it didn't end up being a huge catastrophe. I was able to, there's an emergency shut off. I was able to shut the water off and stop the water flow. And I turned the hot water heater off. And there was about an inch of water, but it was only like on part of the basement, like surrounding the water heater. And I have a 10-gallon wet dry vac, so I was able to suck up most of the water, and then I put a fan to dry it out. So that's not the point of this story incident, by the way. So it wasn't a huge disaster, thank God, and thank you, Sybil, because if that had gone on all night, oh my God, what a disaster it would have been. So, but what was really aggravating for me was, when I was younger, Madcatster used to save every single sentimental item, every letter, every note, every card, every place I've traveled, because I traveled a lot when I was younger, especially, and I saved souvenir stuff everywhere. Well, wouldn't you know, some of the boxes that stuff is in happened to be piled up near the water heater, and even though they were high off the ground, because, I didn't want them to get wet, even though my basement's pretty dry, the spray went all over those boxes, of course, and they got saturated. So I was frantically, after I turned the water off, I was frantically ripping them apart, pulling stuff out and setting it out, because it wasn't like nothing was like totally ruined, but some things were wet or damp. And so I laid it all out to dry, and thank God most of it is going to be salvageable. But this brings me to the point of my story, boys and girls. While I was going through my memories of my glorious youth, I came across a note. Sorry. You'd think I'd be upset about the water heater, right? I'm not. So, as I'm going through these things, I had several parcels, like manila envelopes full of letters and notes and cards from when I was like in my 20s. And I made sure that they were safe. And, there was one of the notes was actually stuck in between some brochures from London. I had gone to London. It was the first place I ever visited overseas when I was really young. And this letter, this note here, was stuck in between some brochures that had gotten soaked. And my God, miraculously, it's bone dry. Because it's very important to me. And I'm going to read it to you and try not to cry. And then I'm going to tell you what my wisdom is. Okay? So, this is a note from probably the person I love the most in my whole adult life. And we met when we were very young. I was only 20 years old, and we were together for about 9 years, and it was a very rocky up and down relationship, but very passionate. And we moved out to California together and lived in Los Angeles. And anyways, I saved everything from that period of my life. And so this note is from that period. And it was during a time when things weren't going so great. And, we had several instances where we almost split for good. And so I think this note, because unfortunately, it's not dated, but I think it's from one of those periods. And so I'm going to read to you what it says. It says, "Hi, I was just about to leave when this thought came into my head. I love you. Thanks for talking with me last night. I really do appreciate it. With the friends I have, nobody would bother to ask me how I'm doing. It's nice to know my best friend," and then on the side in the margin it's written, "That's you. It's nice to know my best friend cares enough to get me to talk. It's hard sometimes. I think I'm Superman. Anyway, I love you, and let's make it work for a very long time. Like, that word that starts with F and ends in R, forever. Oops, I said it. Love you." And I'm not going to say his name. So, of course, I cried when I read it because, it brought flooding back a whole host of memories. And I've told you guys that, you guys know I've been sober for 21 years, almost 22 years. And unfortunately, alcohol was a lot of the cause of the issues I had when I was in my 20s and was a big contributing factor to the end of our relationship. And thank God I'm sober now. Thank God I've been sober for such a long time. But I think if I hadn't been an alcoholic, it probably would not have ended, at least not when it did and how it did. And I'm not using that as an excuse, but it was definitely a big contributing factor to the end of that relationship. And that was probably, and you always think, and this is my wisdom, kids, okay? You always think the grass is greener on the other side. Well, let me tell you something. It's not. It's still the same damn grass, okay? If you find somebody that you really love, and even if you're younger, know this. There's nobody better. There's nothing better. There's not a better situation. There's only different. Okay? And unless you're in a really horrible relationship, if you truly love the person you're with, there is absolutely no reason you shouldn't move heaven and earth to make that relationship work. Because trust me, you don't want to end up like the Madcatster living alone with 15 cats and wondering if it's the end of love for you. And I'm not please don't give me any pity, or I'm not, that's not the point of this. I'm just trying to explain to you guys what I've learned. And this letter, what it reminded me of is that you should make it work if you truly love the person and if it's a healthy relationship. Nothing, if boredom or wandering eyes or whatever, none of that should interfere with your relationship. Hold on to what you've got if it's good, and don't ever let it go. And please learn from my errors. And hopefully you don't have addiction clouding your relationships like I had with mine. And it's only now in clarity, of course, when you can look back when you are recovering and say, what did I do? Why did I screw that up? And so that's my wisdom, guys. So Sybil's a hero, number one, because she got me up and saved us from having a flooded basement because it was relatively minor. because I caught it quick enough thanks to her. And so the big lesson really, or the big point really just is, A, I don't know if it's a good idea to save all your sentimental things. But B, hold on to what you've got, because there isn't anything better. And as long as it's a healthy relationship, trust me, there's nothing better. There's just different. That's the lesson for today, you guys. I will have a regular video. I posted one last night. I have another regular video I'll probably post either tonight or tomorrow. But that's just me sharing part of my life with you and giving you guys a little bit of background and wisdom. And I hope you guys take care of yourselves. And I will see you in the next one.